Hey everyone, welcome back. I finally finished the 1.7 story quest, and trust me, Hugo is going to change how we look at burst DPS units. While Hugo's trial is simple and doesn't give enough to test his kit and potential, I still managed to get some advanced techniques that I'll be covering in this video. I can easily see a lot of shield defense showcases popping up with his release, and players trying to one-shot enemies with his unique mechanic. And while definitely not Miyabi levels of power, he's really good, easy to play, and brings new team possibilities that won't rely on support units. So today, I'm bringing you a complete guide for Hugo, including his kit, rotation, Mindscape, and builds, so you can pre-farm and get ready for Hugo on his release. But just a quick reminder, despite being a complete guide, this isn't an early access video, so some information won't be included here. Hugo is an upcoming ice attacker unit that takes the concept of burst DPS to a whole new level. Bringing a new mechanic to the game, he's able to not only deal huge amount of damage on a single hit, but also remove the stun from the enemy, while also building some daze on them. Hugo also brings some interesting team building potential with his core skill, which allows you to get quick stun windows by using 2 stunners on your team. Of course, this also comes with some downsides, one of them being the fact that outside of his EX special attack and ultimate, his multiplier values are quite bad. Paired with the fact that Hugo's buff only lasts for a few seconds after his chain attack, he provides minimal damage outside of the stun window. Now, let's talk a bit about his kit. Starting with his core, Hugo gets up to 900 attack based on the number of stun units on your team. This helps compensate for the lack of attack buffs Hugo loses by not running support units. So as long as you have good stunners on your account, you can easily run Hugo with 2 stunners and still hit really hard. I'll be talking about his best teammates and compositions later in the video, so let's focus on the rest of the core. Hugo also gets a crit buff after stunning or hitting the enemy with his chain attack. It's a good buff, but since it only lasts for 6 seconds, you have a short window to make use of it. Hugo also deals increased daze to non-stunned enemies with his EX special, but you're not running impact on him, so let's ignore this existing, okay? And now it's time to talk about his unique mechanic, Totalize. Totalize triggers when either the last hit of Hugo's EX special or ultimate hits a stunned enemy. It does increase the damage based on the remaining stun duration of the enemy, and once triggered, the enemy recovers from the stun. This also builds some daze based on the remaining stun duration. So, basically speaking, the faster you hit a stunned enemy with a Totalize, the higher the damage you can achieve. Totalize just adds increased multiplier value to your skill, so for example, Hugo's ultimate, which has a 3055% multiplier value at level 12, can grow up to 6455% multiplier value. This allows for some insane hits, especially when paired with good buffs on Hugo, such as crit rate, crit damage, ice resistance shred, and stun multipliers. Most of the damage and the maximum daze can be achieved as long as the enemy has at least 5 seconds of stun remaining, but every extra second will still add some increased damage for your Totalize. His additional ability increases even further Hugo's burst potential, by giving increased damage to his chain attack and the Totalize effect. You also refund some energy when triggering Totalize with your EX special against normal enemies, which makes it really good to clear trash mobs quickly. And as you can see, Hugo not only gets a lot of damage with Totalize, it also gets a lot of buffs. So the rest of the kit ends up underwhelming when compared to this burst potential. But still, there's still some interesting information to get from his kit. His basic attack has a charged shot on the 4th hit that deals good damage, but of course, the fact that this is only available at the last hit makes it quite sad. After this or any other shot, you can follow up with a special basic attack that also has a charge mechanic. If you ever played Lycan, then you probably get the feeling of these charged shots really easily. His quick assist and dodge counter also has a charged shot mechanic, and all of these allows you to follow up with this special basic attack. So basically, the 4th and this kinda 5th basic attack has some interesting damage, and it would be amazing if his chain attack gave us a basic attack skip, but sadly, it does not. After the chain attack, you follow up with a dash attack and then go into basic attack 3. This limitation is quite sad since it won't allow for bigger combos before triggering Totalize, but I can understand that Hugo is meant to be a burst DPS which consumes the stun. I try using at least one basic attack string before triggering Totalize, but it's long enough to expire the buff. Dodge counter has some huge multiplier values, but overall, it's way better for you to field a good stunner in order to speed up Hugo's damage window. I'll skip all the rest of the kit, since I don't think you're going to field Hugo that much. I'll be focusing mostly on the damage potential of Totalize, since testing Hugo as a sustained DPS is not feasible on the trial mode. Now that you understand his kit, let's talk a bit about how to deal damage with Hugo. For the stun window, I did some tests on my calculator, and so far, going for 2 chains into Totalize is way better than using a single chain into Totalize. Even with 400% less multiplier on your ultimate or EX special, the chain damage is still good. Another thing I managed to achieve on the trial mode is triggering Totalize and a chain at the same time. Achieving this is challenging and requires good timing on your attacks, but it's totally possible. You can see that when using Hugo's chain, the enemy is not stunned anymore, which means Totalize was triggered. This seems useless, since removing the stun means Hugo's chain won't benefit from the stun multipliers, but you can, for example, use a stunner chain to apply daze on the enemy, or just use a Hugo's chain to do some extra damage. I'm pretty sure this information will be useful for those sweaty players that enjoy min-maxing rotations and damage, especially on Deadly Assault. With all this information, you can probably guess his skill upgrade priority. As usual, focus on the core skill to maximize the damage potential of your Totalize effect and double stunner things. After that, level up your ultimate and the EX special, since these are your main sources of damage. Everything else takes low priority, so level up based on your preference. For me, for example, assists are my priority, since at least I can get some increased daze from defensive assist. Then basics together with dodge attacks. Now, let's talk about builds. The best 4-piece set for Hugo is, of course, Hormone Punk. As a burst DPS that barely needs time to achieve the maximum DPS potential, Hormone Punk fits perfectly with Hugo's playstyle, and you can easily achieve 100% uptime on Hormone Punk. Another option is Perforate Electro, which is also a burst-focused set, but you won't fully benefit from the Perforate Electro 4-piece effect when using your EX special to trigger Totalize. So Hormone Punk is the overall best option. For the 2-piece set, you can run pretty much anything with good subsets. As you can see, the damage difference is not that huge, so pick up anything between Woodpecker Electro, Branch and Blade Song, Polar Metal, Astral Voice, or Buffer Electro. All it matters is finding the best substats for your build. Of course, if you're not aiming for a 100% crit rate, then Woodpecker value will be lower, and using something else will provide higher damage ceiling. For disc 4, your top priority is finding a good crit disc depending on your current ratio. As usual, you should aim for a 1-to-2 ratio, meaning that for every point of crit rate, you should get 2 points of crit damage. Of course, if you're aiming for big screenshot damage, you can always forfeit crit rate and only focus on crit damage and attack, so you can get these big hits but relying on RNG. For disc 5, in most cases you'll be running damage on Hugo. The only exception here is when running lighter or stacking enough damage buffs, which in this case, you'll be running penetration. But penetration also has an exception. If you're stacking enough defense shred or defense ignore buffs, such as Nicole, Trigger Signature, and his Mindscape 2, running penetration is now bad and you should run damage once again, even if lighter is on your team. But if you're just accounting for his Mindscape 2, then penetration is still totally fine. For this 6, there's only a single option, and it is attack. No explanation needed, Hugo is not a stunner, Hugo just wants to deal as much damage as he can. And for substats, your main priority is the holy trinity of crit stats and attack. Then you go for flat penetration and attack. Just keep in mind and avoid going above the crit rate cap, since everything above 100% crit rate gives no damage increase at all. Before talking about weapons, I am not including Hugo's signature in this video since it's not available on the trial mode. Once early access videos are out, I'll be covering his signature weapon in a full evolution video that I'll release before his banner goes up. At first, I was thinking about Ellen's signature since it provides good crit rate and ice damage as well, and all you need to do is use a dash attack and a basic attack, which is exactly what Hugo uses after his chain attack. But one member of my Discord server mentioned that you need to deal ice damage with your dash attack in order to get the second stack of crit rate. So yeah, Hugo can only get one stack of this weapon since his dash attack deals physical damage. Despite this, it is still a good option assuming you're not overcapping crit rate. The ice damage works for Hugo since most of the other option works just as stat sticks. If you don't own any of these and are going for a free-to-play option, then Marcato Desire at phase 5 will be the best pick. Nekomaru's signature can work as well, but this means you need to waste time positioning yourself behind the enemy. Starlight Engine requires a support unit or a stunner with quick assist on your team, since otherwise you won't get the attack buff on the stun window. Now let's talk about his Mindscape, since some of these are really busted. Mindscape 1 is quite simple and just adds an extra crit rate and crit damage for your Totalize effects, meaning that it's easier to crit and it hits even harder. Now, Mindscape 2 is stealing the spot from Jane and Vivian for the best Mindscape 2 in the game. Mindscape 2 not only adds defense ignore to your Totalize effect, it also allows you to hit 2 Totalizers on the enemy in a single stun window. That's because his ultimate won't end the stun effect anymore. By simply including an EX special after your ultimate, you can get around 67.5% damage increase on your Hugo. Since Hugo's ultimate is not a heavy hit, you can swap Hugo away after the ultimate, trigger another chain attack, and get back to Hugo with the core buff again to finish with an EX special. Mindscape 4 is good, but the value can change a little bit depending on your team buffs and enemy weakness. Lighter and Lycan already provide ice resistance shred, so as you can imagine, for this team, Hugo's Mindscape 4 won't give a huge damage buff. But against ice resistance enemies, and if you're not running Lighter and Lycan together, then Hugo's Mindscape 4 is going to offer good damage potential. Mindscape 6 is also good because it allows Hugo to be a sustained DPS unit. This is not reflected here on the DPS calculation since this only assumes the stun window. But trust me, the DPS potential here is massive. If you want to keep Hugo on the field and not play him as a burst-only unit, this is the Mindscape you should look for. But that's 7 copies, so all I can say for you is good luck. And for his teammates, here's a quick tier list for you with the best units to run alongside Hugo. So far, one of the best things is running Chingy and Lighter since this allows for huge damage potential on the stun window. However, I am pretty sure that running Lighter and Lycan will provide the highest overall damage potential. That's because Lighter can also increase Lycan's damage potential, so as long as you are investing in your Lycan, he'll be able to provide some increased damage while also stunning the enemy. Lighter so far is easily the best partner, with huge ice buffs for Hugo and even more if you own his signature engine. It's hard to beat Lighter out of this spot. Lycan value is good since the stun multiplier and ice resistance shred helps Hugo even further. Trigger is a solid unit, but sadly since you're not aiming for sustained damage, her value is not a good at Mindscape 0 and even worse without her signature weapon. For a free-to-play team, Lycan and Sokaku proves to be a good option. While you're losing one stunner on your team, Sokaku provides 1000 attack, ice damage, and ice resistance shred as well if you own her Mindscape 4. Just be careful to not use her chain attack, otherwise Hugo Totalize damage will fall off a little bit. For the rest of the units, most of them can provide a good damage potential but lack daze potential, or some of them only have daze potential and little to no damage potential. Highly recommend waiting for some early access combat showcase videos to better understand the potential and ceiling of these team compositions, but so far, Lighter paired with either Chingy, Lycan, or Trigger is the best option for your Hugo. And for Bangboos, running 2 stunners means that you're guaranteed to hit spades, and this gives increased daze to robbing, which means faster stuns and more damage for Hugo. Other options include Sumo Boo, also for increased daze potential, utility Bangboos such as Butler or Night Boo, and also Ice Bangboos for some extra freeze triggers, which can help, for example, Marcato Desire to get the maximum damage potential. And that's everything for my Hugo guide. Did my best to get the most of Hugo just from the trial mode, and hope this information can help you pre-farm and decide your pulls for Hugo. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments down below or join my Discord server. Thank you so much for watching this video, have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in my next video.